over a year. October, that's fine, except this week.
Everyone, we getting ready to get started, please. It's now 6:30 p.m., September the 3rd, and I'm gonna go ahead and start the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting tonight. We do have a quorum here tonight. You have myself, Derek Parks, Chair. You have Michael, Vice Chair, is present. Karen, member, is present. Kevin, member, he's present. We have Susie, also a member, she's present. And also two, we have Brian Bell, he's an alternate member. And for the city staff, we have Ben, is the Director of Development Services, and Emma, Planning Zoning Manager here tonight. We do have two consent agenda items tonight. On your sheet, on your handout is number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is approving the minutes for October the 5th of 2024. And number 2 is consider approving the final plat for a data center complex in the Alamo Mission subdivision on approximately 179.166 acres out of the Benjamin Fraser Survey, abstract number 371. Case number P as in Paul, S as in Sam, 24-09, requested by Kimberly Horn. Staff, y'all have any questions regarding the consent agenda items tonight? And can I have a motion, please?
Move that we accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Consent agenda items have been approved. Moving along to new business, which is number 3, is a conducted public hearing and consider zoning change from PD 164 to Plan Development 164 R1 for the development of a data center complex and associated infrastructure on approximately 225.7726 acres, tract of land situated in the Robert Crow Survey, abstract number 199, William Winford Survey, abstract number 1145, and John Evans Survey, abstract number 1344, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-15, requested by DB Databank Red Oak LLC. Staff, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a proposal for Phase 1 of DataBank. This case came before you last year and it was approved for the conceptual plan. And the applicant has come back to submit for Phase 1, which includes the data center buildings, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, the mechanical and equipment yards. They did come back with detailed landscaping, a photometric study as was promised during the initial zoning case, and elevations to show the appearance of the building. And they also submitted streetscape sections to show how the landscaping was going to be viewed when people are driving from the street. And they also showed some sightline studies to show how it's going to look from the street to make sure there's going to be sufficient screening. As I mentioned, it's going to be proposed 4 buildings. They are going to, one of the points of contentions last year was that construction access be via Loop 9. They are showing that on their development plan that there will be a temporary access via Loop 9 through the Encore easement on that northeast section here. Some other points that came up, we discussed maximum noise levels. That's still 70 dBA on the property line. Construction hours are still 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday. They did flesh it out a little bit to exclude holidays and also limit the construction from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but that's going to be major construction. So anything interior that wouldn't be noisy, they would be able to do that outside of that time period. So that detail was added in there.
Did you say Monday through Saturday?
Correct. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Primary access to the site will be from Future Bachelor. Let me show a closer section. And the temporary or the secondary access will be from Stainback Road. And it's basically going to be for emergency use. It's going to be manual with Knox box. Primary access point from Bachelor Road. Another point that came up during last year's submittal was for the screening. The applicant will be providing a minimum of a 6-foot or 7-foot berm along both Stainback and Bachelor Road to make sure that all the equipment yards are screened from the right of way. Show that here. See 6-foot berm, and then 50% shrubbery screening, and then trees along the frontage. And they have a 38 feet spacing for the trees. The trees, the shrubs, and the berm. I'll show you a section so it can be a little bit clearer. You see, this is Bachelor Road. This is a canopy tree, 7-foot berm, and then shrubs. And then depending upon where you're looking on the site, you might see a Nellie R. Stevens shrub, or you might see a smaller shrub, which will be 24 inches. And then you'll have that 8-foot high security fence. And these are the sightline studies that show if you're on the right of way, for example, if there's a 7-foot berm here, and this is the mechanical equipment, it won't be visible. And it just kind of shows position A, position B1, B2, and then it shows it here. They did submit a photometric study that shows that there won't be any sort of light pollution or bleeding over onto the other sites, neighboring properties, as was requested. And as for the right-of-ways, they will be constructing about half of the proposed Bachelor Road that goes through the property that will serve the property, and will construct the curb and gutter and the 5-foot sidewalk on the east part of the property. And they're going to improve Steinbach with concrete, and that's along the frontage of the property. And then they're also going to add a 5-foot sidewalk on the portion of the property that's directly adjacent to the site. And then also improve Bachelor Road from Avila to Steinbach with concrete. Right now it's asphalt. Now go back up there, might take a minute. I'll also mention during last year's submittal, they did remove that RAE property that was west of proposed Bachelor Road, so that's not included in this zoning change. And the comprehensive plan does support the use. It does ask that staff considers sufficient screening where there is this type of use. And with the streetscape sections, they've shown that they are achieving that. So these are the improvements to the roadways. From Avila to Steinbach on Bachelor Road, it'll be improved with concrete. And then for the proposed Bachelor Road, they'll construct half of the right-of-way with a temporary curb, the concrete right-of-way, curb and gutter, and the sidewalk. And for Steinbach, they're improving it with concrete and then the bar ditches. And staff does support the request, and we did receive a letter in opposition. We can just address that during the public hearing process. If any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Emma.
Mhm.
This is a public hearing. So those that are in favor of this item, you can step to the podium first. Please state your name and your address. Those who have questions or against this item, you can go second. So the floor is open to individuals that are for this item.
Good evening, Mr. Commissioner and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Daniel Box and I'm a zoning attorney with Winstead PC. Office is located at 2728 North Harwood Street. Just here, I think Emma did a good job summarizing our request. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We've got our team here, a member from the applicant, our engineer, as well as our architect. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Like Emma stated, we did receive a one letter against this agenda item from individual addressed at 1598 Steinbach Road. No comments, they just put against this item. I'm sorry, there is a comment on the second page, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and read this. It's very interesting that this, once again, has been brought before us. Nearly our entire neighborhood attended the council meeting related to this request. And we're told by the council that they were going to approve it and thought this was in their best interest as opposed to hundreds of houses. Or better yet, standing by the agreement that was made in 2001 to keep the entire area ranchette and rural. That is the reason that all of this chose to move and live in this area. Most of us have livestock and do not choose to live in an area outside those parameters. However, your council advised us that our opinions and wants, needs do not matter in the least, that they know what's better for us. In fact, an unknown female at the last planning and zoning meeting made the statement, if they cared, they would be attending the meetings. Ironic, since we did not attend and a decision was made for us anyway. So what's the point? The city of Red Oak is not going to honor their prior commitment to keep this area ranchette, and our opinions don't matter. the city is going to do what brings in the most revenue regardless of whether it has a negative impact on our property or our lives. This is just for sending this request out to us. That being said, I'm still submitting this to put on the record that none of us want this. We want to live in peace and quiet in the rural setting we all chose and would like the city of Red Oak to be honorable and keep their word. That's the only opposition letter that we have on file. Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, y'all have any questions here? We have the applicant has representation here, so he can answer any questions. And he has other individuals with him also.
Emma, could you pull up the master site plan? Okay. I've seen what I need there. I do have one question. The landscaping,
Mhm.
The trees and the bushes and the berm outside the fence, from the fence to where is going to be the responsibility of the data center to maintain? All
So
the way
they'll,
to the street?
so they'll have to maintain all of the landscaping in their property. The right of way will maintain the, you have an easement in there, right? That we're gonna have.
The property owner is responsible for maintaining everything up to the edge of pavement.
Edge of pavement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like at your house, you gotta mow to the back of the curb, even though that's 10 feet.
Sure.
That's actually city right of way.
Okay.
So on that widening, I mean, that paving of half of Stainback, it looks like it, but I want to verify that's even the half is still enough for two cars to go side by side, right?
Yes, I think it was
44 feet.
Yeah, so that's two 12-foot lanes. That's
Right.
pretty wide.
Anyone else?
I mean, actually,
Questions? Did you have questions? No, that was the same question.
Oh, same question. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3, please?
Move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kim, did you vote? I'm sorry. Kevin. Kevin. Did
I'm
you vote?
sorry?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your vote, sir.
Oh, aye.
Oh.
Sorry.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 3 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item number 4, which is also a conducted public hearing and consider zoning change from Plan Development 66R5, which is Plan Development 66R6 for the development of a data center and auxiliary structures on the property described as a tract of land out of the Benjamin Fraser Survey, abstract number 371, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-18, requested by Alamo Mission LLC. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this is a request for the third building of this Alamo project. This is for phase 2. They did get an approval for buildings 1, which is also a data center, and the office building. And as per the development standards, when they're submitting for a new phase, they'll have to come in and submit a detailed site plan, landscape plan, and elevation plan. So the proposed data center building is 283,497 square feet. They are proposing fencing, an 8-foot high chain link fencing for security, as was done for phase one. And they are also proposing an auxiliary building, and which will be used to support the data center building. The thing with this request is that the PD limits accessory buildings to 20,000 square feet, and this accessory structure will be approximately 126,000 square feet. But it's more of a mechanical building, and it's the materials in it will be used to support the operations of data centers. So staff is supporting the use, and the applicant is just so that it can blend in with the surrounding, because it does, the original submittal did have a metal panel on the first 19 feet. The entire structure is about 59.5 feet. So for the first approximately 19 feet, they did propose what's called like an IMP, and it has a sort of like it's meant to imitate like a stucco type of textured look on the exterior. So they did submit that and are open to any other material suggestions that the commission or council may have for the exterior. This is the main building, and this is a precast material, which is approved by the main PD. And this is the accessory structure that is about 126,000 square feet. So you can see it's about first 19 feet and 8 inches. And then that's that embossed stucco material or an alternate material.
What's above that?
So-
What materials above that, or is that open?
So the dry coolers, and then these are the gantry, these are like the stairs so that people can maintain them. And then this is an open space.
Yeah, it's essentially open iron structure or steel. I don't know what exactly they're using, but
Structural support.
So this isn't a two-story, the gap between the first floor and the dry coolers is open air?
Yes, that's correct.
so this is just their auxiliary building
Okay.
that is used to make the main building function essentially. I guess they can get more into the actual uses of it, but I believe it's essentially giant detached air conditioner. To cool,
Inside the building?
correct.
And they're here to kind of add some detail as to the operations in there. There's not going to be any restrooms in there. It's basically going to be for workers to go in there, do maintenance. But they can provide details on that. But besides that, they're meeting all the other requirements for the PD.
Thank you, Emma.
Mhm.
This is a public hearing. Those are in favor of this item, you can step to the podium, give us your name, your address. And those who have questions, you can go second. And right now, the floor is open.
Hello, everyone. I am Brianna Covington with Kimley Horn. I am the civil engineer for the project and here to answer any questions that you guys might have. And I'll let Garrett introduce himself.
Hello, Garrett Rodriguez with Corrigan Architecture, representing our client as well and open to any questions related to the project.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Move to close?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioner, do y'all have any questions or concerns for this agenda item tonight?
Now that I've seen the drawing, did I understand correctly that this accessory building will be closed in? It won't,
No,
Yeah.
the
just-
bottom is closed and
Yes.
it's just,
correct. You see, right? Yeah, this is the space.
and this is between the data center and Ovilla Road.
Yes.
So does the lot below that, that's gonna be data centers eventually as well? Is that
Yes.
Long-term. plan?
correct.
Okay.
And
So
then
we
this
can clarify
is,
that.
this was approved data center right here. And then this is the office building that came before y'all, that was approved. This is phase one. And then this is phase two. This is the third building, the Alamo Mission. And this is that auxiliary building that we're just looking at. And then this will be a future data center building. And then this will be a future commercial.
So although
So-
that doesn't look attractive from Avila Road now.
That's where I was going, yeah. So if there's gonna be something in lot 4 and lot 3 that'll block that view from Ovilla Road, that'll be fine. Ultimately, no problem, won't take long. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Michael, anything? All right. No more comments. Can I have a motion for agenda item 4, please?
I move to approve agenda item 4.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 4 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 5, which is conducted public hearing and considered zoning change from agricultural district to plan development 177 for mixed-use development with single-family homes, multifamily development, and commercial uses on the site and located approximately 1,450 feet south of East Avila Road and east of North State Highway 342, described as a tract of land situated in the Benjamin E. Fraser Survey, abstract number 371, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-19, requested by A.N. Moore Consultant LLC. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this is a request. This is this is the same property has come before you all. It was titled as Summerwell, but they have changed up the layout and the uses for the site. It's now come back as Birchway. And they're proposing, it's going to be a mixed use site with apartments being a great deal of it. As you can see here, the multifamily and the single family homes back here. They're still leaving the commercial sites, which is going to be lot 1 and lot 3, with the buildings being oriented towards the streets to promote walkability. And these commercial uses are essentially going to support the residential uses. They've kind of been picked to support the residential uses and have an option to have some vertical mixed use go here. But this is not going to be part of the development plan. When the developers come in at a later point, they'll be required to submit a detailed development plan, site plan, and landscape plan. This down here will be the public access easement, where the public will have access to this public park. It'll actually be dedicated, this pond right here, with piers and fountain, public parking. So as you can see here, citizens, patrons, residents, they can come down here, enter their gates here, enter their gates here. There's on-street parking here, sidewalks, and then here's the parking for anyone public here. And then these are the public restrooms. That was another point that was brought up with the last submittal. And then here's the pond. Here's gates so that only the residents can enter. And then here's that last set of gates. So then here's parking for the pond. So for the youths, they're proposing 324 multi-family units. And they're also proposing 26 single-family homes. Let's see. And they're here.
And also just to point out, it's similar to the last one where they're single family homes, but they're all on the same lot. So there's still a rental product. It's basically a standalone apartment building that only one family lives in.
So it's built to rent product.
Okay.
And so you have your fire lane here, then you have your alley here, and this is emergency access gate. And then you have a sidewalk all around the pond with benches and trash receptacles and lighting. They've included amenities such as like the pergola, the fountains, a fire pit with seating, a small dog park, and a large dog park here. And there's some exhibits later down. There will be the 6-foot high screening, brick screening that'll separate it from the commercial and the residential use. There's an exhibit. And the minimum dwelling size for the single family home will be 1,800 square feet. And they will be 4 bedrooms. The multifamily will be 1 and 2 bedrooms, minimum of 697 square feet. And then this is the landscape plan. This is a more detailed look on the landscape plan. There's trees and shrubbery along the front foundation of each home and the shrubbery along the foundations of the multifamily units. And these are some examples of garages, the masonry garages that would be constructed. And this auto turn exhibit is just an exhibit showing that it is possible to, for a fire truck to have a turnaround in this area. These are exhibits of the single family homes. They will be using one architectural style. I know the last one, it had different, but since this is gonna be just 26 single family homes, it's gonna be a Texas traditional kind of architectural style that they're using. So we're seeing brick veneer and fiber cement. These are some of the colored elevations. And there's gonna be 2 floor plans for the single family homes. And these are the multifamily units. And the detailed floor plans. So they are proposing carports in our base zoning ordinance. Carports are strictly prohibited. They did put in their development standards that it's going to be the post columns are going to be encased with a thin brick material on the posts. So here are the carports.
What were the parking ratios that were laid out,
1.6.
which is in line with our other complexes?
And we did receive some letters in support. While I'm headed down there, staff does support the request. The future land use plan supports residential uses only in the context of mixed use development. So in this context, it's horizontal. They're proposing the commercial at the front and it's within a walkable distance of the residential development. And they are also proposing different types of residential products. So it's in alignment with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. This is a public hearing. Those in favor of this item, you can go first. Please state your name, and your address, please. And those who have questions, you can go second.
Right. Good evening, Nikki Moore, with A&M Moore Consulting. I was hired by Greystar Development to facilitate this zoning change. My home office address is 4416 Eaton Circle. It's in Colleyville, 76034. Okay, all right. Well, it's really good to be back in front of you this evening. I'm going to lower the microphone, so pardon me. Okay. So since our last visit here at Planning and Zoning Commission, council decided that they weren't supportive of the 100% build to rent community. They wanted something that was a little bit more in line with the intent of their comprehensive plan. Something they'd be more comfortable with, be more traditional multifamily with some of the larger single family homes for rent, as long as they were a minimum of 1,800 square feet. So that's kind of what we brought here before you tonight. So we've kind of come back with this more hybrid design. And we're actually doing this in a lot of our communities, the Greystar communities across the country, because they become a little bit more cohesive, and a lot of communities can kind of recognize the value of having different sized homes and then even apartment units for a variety of different types of families. Scroll down, sorry. Okay, so let's kind of dive into tour the site plan a little bit. So first, we are still concentrating that commercial portion up along 342. It has been written into the plan development that should the market change and support more of a vertical mixed use here, with that more of the retail on the lower floor with more residential above, that is a potential possibility here to be developed in the future. We've concentrated the buildings up along 342 and then along of the access road, because I think it's really important to promote visibility for those businesses, but also to not make a patron come park and then walk all the way across this large parking lot to get to their destination. We want the destination to be front and center and the park and dairy second. So we really create this more pedestrian friendly type of community. Entering the development, you'll find sidewalks, shade trees, kind of like a large boulevard there to promote that pedestrian connectivity. We're creating a cohesive design between the commercial development and the residential development by using, The sidewalks and the landscaping, the decorative paving, the signage, all of that will kind of be cohesive. So you feel like there's a sense of place, whether you're in the commercial development or the residential portion. The residential portion of the neighborhood does boast 324 stacked flats. 216 of those are one bedrooms and 108 of those are 2-bedroom floor plans. The 26 homes that are a minimum of 1,800 square feet, those are both 4 bedrooms. We have 2 different floor plans of 4 bedrooms. They're 2 stories and they will all have a standard 2-car garage plus a standard length driveway. So really being able to offer 4 off-street parking spaces for each of those homes. These homes will also have a little gated courtyard space for the personal enjoyment that will be kind of separated from the other amenities as well. And those are purposely, I'm going to kind of use my mouse here. They're purposely situated right here along closest to the single family neighborhoods. When we start talking about densities and zoning and kind of form-based code, you're concentrating those things of the same scale. And then as you're getting more toward the density and more of the commercial development, that increases a little bit. So being kind of respectful of our neighbors, but also maximizing the density and the height as we're getting closer to the highway away from those single family homes. As Emma mentioned earlier, there will be a 6-foot-tall masonry screen wall between the existing residential, this development, and the future commercial development. We are utilizing 4-foot decorative wrought iron fencing for the little courtyard areas for the single-family homes, and some of the first floor units of the stacked flats also have pet yards, which I have a demonstrating picture here in a moment. So throughout the development, there will be those. It is a gated community from a vehicular standpoint, but it is open to a pedestrian standpoint. So we didn't want to take this community if we're saying, hey, this commercial and come use the pond. We don't want it to feel closed off or compoundish is the word that's coming to mind. And so we have gated it for vehicles so no one can just park anywhere. But we want people to come and walk around and enjoy the community and enjoy the amenities. So we've also, all of these, we've designated 30 spots for the community as well, right here along. So you have the public access to come through here. There will be spots that will be specifically dedicated to the public with no overnight parking signs as well. So these will not really be for the residents. They will for the residents of the community, but the residents for Red Oak to come fishing and enjoy the amenities. As I mentioned earlier in our last presentation before you, we were committed to having more of a public restroom that would be kind of integrated into the clubhouse. That will also be maintained by the property management for the rest of the Red Oak citizens who are using those facilities. And all of these standards are outlined in the plan development. So just as your community grows and, things happen, properties change hands, these plan development standards stay with the land. They stay with the community, not necessarily with this particular developer. Next up, we're kind of drilling down. So the building architecture evolved from the previous Texas traditional style as it was the most popular and kind of spoke directly to Red Oak's heritage. I'd like to point out to this just the variety of the roof pitches that you have from the different angles, brick detailing around the windows and the doors to provide just a level of interest, change in brick color, materials and whatnot. All of the exteriors are 100% masonry up to the top plate. We do have a little bit of accent material, a cementitious fiberboard, just to kind of connect the height and provide a level of interest to the masonry. But the structure in its entirety up to the top plate is masonry. Okay, so we carried that Texas traditional theme to the single family home. So we're creating a real cohesive community in terms of look and feel. Also to, we have different roof pitches, brick detailing around the windows and the doors, front porches, and the uses of like different shutters and vents and columns to articulate variety in addition to the brick color and changes. And these exteriors are also 100% masonry up to the top plate as well. I'm using this photo to kind of demonstrate. So if I'm a citizen of Red Oak and I'm walking around the pond, this would kind of emulate my viewpoint of what I would be seeing. So you have kind of little private courtyard fences, and then the home behind that, those homes are dual elevated, so they have a front and a rear. The rear considered the garage side, but this also being the front side too, because it's going to face the public realm. If we go back to that site plan, you can kind of see that those homes are facing this pond to really capture that view. So throughout the community, there are, of course, private amenities for the residents that are in the clubhouse. And those kind of include the pool, the fitness area, meeting spaces. All of the mailboxes for the community will be tucked into that amenity space, into that clubhouse. Outdoors, though, we've done some passive congregational areas in terms of like a pergola, fire pit, open air seating, dog parks for the large and the small pups, with all the walking paths around the pond and the trees and the benches and whatnot. A few of the piers will be designed at the engineering phase for fishing, because we know that is a really, really big deal here in Red Oak. And we really want to amenitize that natural resource here in Red Oak. I think when you have a resource like that on a property, that becomes the focal point, right? You're not moving the pond. And so how do we make this to a benefit for the residents to enjoy? And you can access this pond either through the private drive. Also, there will be a trailhead at the end of Fox Glen where it kind of dead ends right now into the pond. And they can also, of course, just walk into our development anytime. This is an example of a very similar project that Greystar has done. The pool area for the residents, you can see there's some covered awnings, places to kind of tanning ledges and whatnot, places to gather. This is an example of their clubhouse, where residents can come and play games, work, grab a cup of coffee. This is what I was mentioning earlier with the pet yards. This would be an example of one of the ground floor units that would have kind of a side pet yard where they can just let their pup out and have their own little yard space. This is also a great example of dog park areas that Greystar has placed in their other communities. A lot of times we kind of put benches, there's rocks, there's ramps and things like that for the dogs to climb on. There's water bowls, water fountains for both pets and humans, as well as I believe that is a pet washing station in this one. So this is another example of garages. I recognize that the one I sent to Emma earlier, was kind of under construction and had some cementitious fiberboard. This is an example of 100% masonry garage as well. We've got a couple of these buildings. They're programmed in 6-packs throughout the community. So if some of our residents do want to have more of a covered parking space, this would be one of their options that they could reserve and have available to lease. And so, with any project, in my former life, I came from city government. So I completely understand that whatever developers come in with and design and put into the ground, you're stuck with, right? And so you want to be cautious and you want to be selective on who and what that developer is installing. And so what I really, really love about this project, not only is it more of a hybrid, it brings a lot of different components that community needs into one space, but it integrates well with the surrounding neighborhood. We talked earlier about how placing those single family homes up against an existing single family neighborhood and then transitioning that density and height as you get more closer to your commercial areas. These floor plans are well designed and they're very livable. I know when a lot of people hear a 1-bedroom apartment, 600 square feet, or an 1,800 square foot home. But, I'd like to challenge you and think, okay, well, if you do have a large home, how much of that home are you actually living in? I would tell you that this now new renter and even new home buyer is really focusing on more minimalistic spaces and utilizing every square footage. They're no longer looking for the library, the formal dining, the formal living that they have to furnish, but they're not utilizing. And so when you have really great livable floor plans that function well, you can actually live in a lot less square footage. I think it capitalized on the natural asset. We've kind of talked about a little bit of the pond, but this community as a whole too also It increases the taxable value, the taxable revenue for the city of Red Oak. And this is not subject to homestead exemptions or senior exemptions. You get to tax all of it. And it goes to your schools as well. So in this particular instance, taking this land from land that was previously not annexed into your city, but now annexed into your city, and then changing it from agricultural to this type of use, I mean, you're multiplying the value to Red Oak over 100 times. And that's just on this residential portion. That's only on the 20 acres of residential portion. That's not even including the remaining commercial development that has yet to be decided. And also just to valuable infrastructure. So valuable infrastructure in terms of a lift station, maximizing that sewer capacity in this area. And that's all coming in at the developer's expense. And so I really do believe got a really great partner here in Greystar in terms of what they're offering and bringing into the community. I'd say that just going through this process and where we began and where we are today, I'm not sad about it. You know, I feel like we went through the process and it wasn't completely successful, but we've gotten an opportunity to come back again and kind of revisit the site plan and put forth together an even better type of solution. So that is all I have at the moment. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We did receive two notices from property owners. Brett, was it Hess, I believe, Hess, 106 South Main Street. Check the box of for this agenda item. We fully support the proposed use of the property. There was a second one from Clyde Hargrove, 101 Valley Ridge Drive. He didn't check for or against, but he did comment and say, hey, this is the highest, best, and most practical use for this property. Anyone else that has any questions or maybe against this item or questions? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, have any questions or concerns?
I have a question on the gated aspect of the community. Where are the gates at?
I think they're shown on the rendering too, which is a little bit easier to look at.
Greg, can you put it back up on the screen? Thanks.
Oh. Can y'all
It's up
see it?
there.
Okay, okay. I was like, I can see it, but I don't know if y'all can. Okay, so they are right here as you come into the development here. And then we've got some sliding gates right here and right here, trying to keep this open for the public. And then there's another gate access here. And so all of this is really done by residents have like an app. It's like their residential app, and that's how they open their gate. And so even if they have a visitor or whatnot, maybe coming to see them, we've got plenty of public parking spaces and clubhouse spaces, but also too, like they could just open the gate from their phone.
There's also a gate at Shadow Bend or connects to this subdivision.
Yes, yes. And that one is actually not for opening and closing. That is for emergency exit only.
Okay, so it would be closed?
Yes, yes. So I don't think it would be preferable for people to be able to drive from community to community. So that was really just for emergency access only.
Yeah, that's a fire department.
Yeah.
Requirement. We got
Right.
back door access.
And I guess the parking spaces, we had 519. Is that plus 26 at the single family? Or plus,
That was all inclusive.
that was
right?
all inclusive? all the
300
street parking.
350 units, all inclusive.
No, I'm talking about the parking spots. It's
Oh, yes,
4.6.
yes.
Five
We,
hundred and 19 parking spots is what it identified, but then it also identified some separate.
yes. So we took the build to rent ones out because
Okay.
no one else besides the people who live in those homes are going to park in the garage or on their driveway. So we kind of removed those, and that's at their own separate. They have 4 spaces per. And then the 1.6 ratio is applied to the 324 stack flats. And then we have 30 separate parking spaces for the clubhouse, and then we have 30 separate parking spaces for the public.
So is there any planned time frame for the commercial development?
And will let our Greystar representative kind of answer that. They've got some, they're not a commercial developer, but they do have some commercial contacts that they are discussing this with.
Hi, TJ Moore, with Greystar Development, 600 Las Colinas Boulevard, Irving, Texas. In the previous time we brought this before you, we actually didn't control the commercial, but this time through, we decided to buy the commercial. So I say that to say, once we get zoning in place, we will start to market it. And we work with commercial developers across the country. And so we've already reached out to a couple of them about what works here and what they think we can actually get, financed to build here. Like who wants to come, what use wants to come here? We haven't taken it to that next level to know what it's going to be yet, but we are in control of it this time and we are excited about that.
Because I'm
Thank
really hesitant to just build a bunch of apartments and have empty land up there. So that's fine.
And we don't want to do that either. But from a commercial perspective, the other thing we don't want to do is just go build something spec and it stay empty. That doesn't benefit you either. So we do want to be mindful of it. I will say, while we are a residential developer, we've done a bunch of commercial too. And so when we bring something, it will be successful. I can definitely tell you that.
And it's probably easier to sell a commercial with 350 units attached to it.
It would not go right now without it. I can say that for sure as well. So we've done stuff similar, like in Keller right now, for example. We just wrapped up a multifamily development there in Keller where we had commercial along a road, kind of like 342, it's 377. And we didn't think we were going to have any commercial there. And then as soon as the multifamily went up, we are now 100% leased there and we went in with almost this exact same type of layout and plan for the commercial. We didn't know what had happened, and it ended up being a brunch place and a exercise, workout place. And so I hope something like that happens here as well.
Thank you.
Does the city work with Greystar before?
Greystar currently manages the Ovilla and the Emerson.
We manage the Emerson.
The Emerson.
We don't manage.
They
the
didn't
Oakville.
build it, but they manage it.
But we are the largest multifamily developer in the country. But putting that aside, because that kind of could have a negative connotation. I mean, we only do quality, and we've just, like I said, Keller, Grapevine, Mansfield, those are kind of the markets we're in. And so incredible track record. And we are the largest property manager as well. So we know the data of what's going to be successful. And so when we bring something as a developer, we don't bring it unless we have all the data in the world. We know if it's going to work here. And so we're big believers in Red Oak.
Can you show me where the bus stop is?
So it hadn't been decided yet. But it's in the written documentation that a bus stop will be provided at the time of
Okay.
design. They would work with the school district on
Okay. So we'll
where
work with
the
district.
best place for it would be.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Ben, and I know it's gonna get brought up later down the road, but carports. Is that written down here somewhere?
It's written in the PD standards about allowing carports, but they have to have on the support columns, they've got to have thin brick masonry, not just metal columns or wood columns.
Anyone else?
And just to that point as well, sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt, but the placement that's shown right now is behind buildings and not visible from the public access way. And none of it's technically visible from public right of way because that's a privately owned street with just public access easement on top of it.
Is city staff gonna have any responsibility to maintain any part of the pond, the trash,
So the park will be turned over to the Parks Department after it's complete.
Okay.
And so then, yes, it'll become a maintenance item for the Parks Department.
so the pier, long-term, that's all?
The pier, the fountains, the
Okay.
sidewalks and all that, subject to a 2-year maintenance bond, as with any development.
So the walkway around the pond, it is gonna connect to the Fox Hollow sidewalks there? and the Walking
Yes.
gate?
Yes. That level of detail of how it's going to
Right.
connect has not been worked out
Yeah.
yet, but the intent is for it to connect.
All right. If nothing else, can I have a motion, please? For agenda item 5?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 5 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 6, which is also to a public hearing and consider a zoning change from 104R to Plan Development 104R2 to allow for a minor auto repair use on the site identified as Lot 3, Block A of Benjamin E. Survey, Fraser Survey, abstract number 371. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-17, requested by Humo Investments LLC. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this is a request to change the zoning on the site from PD 104. It has a zoning that was approved for a restaurant use. But that zoning or the development, the extent of development of the site was only for this lot 2, Block A.
Which is Soul
but-
Man's, the
Yeah.
Soul Man's Barbecue.
Okay.
Right, which is a restaurant, but the zoning applied to both lots. So they have to come in and request for this specific use for the lot 3. And that's for an auto minor repair. The future land use plan does support it. They are in line with our landscaping requirements. And just for point of reference, this is Austin Boulevard. And then this is Oak Villa. They are in alignment with the landscaping requirements, the signage. They are asking for an exception, and it wouldn't be separate. It would be included in this PD to change the parking requirements to, because right now it's 1 parking space per 200 square feet of floor area, plus 1 parking space per bay. And there are 7 bays. So they're requesting for the parking requirement to just be 1 parking space per 200 square feet of floor area. And they can also use the service space for parking. So that is an exception that they are requesting for. As with any auto minor repair use, the storage or the parking of cars that are being repaired, they're allowed for a maximum of 7 days on site before they have to be removed. And the storage of any like tires, basically all the used inventory will be right here behind the dumpster. And then here's a masonry wall that encloses the dumpster. So let me show you elevation. Here's a landscape plan. And this is an encore easement. They couldn't place any large trees in it, so they just relocated them throughout the site, and it still meets the landscaping requirements. And these are elevations of the building: stone, brick, ephes, and then this is that dumpster enclosure. So then the used inventory will be placed behind the dumpster. And this is the signage. And staff supports the request as it's in alignment with our future land use plan. We didn't receive any letters in support or opposition.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. So those that are in favor of this item, you can go first. Please state your name and your address. And those who have any questions, you all can go second.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Steve Meyer. I'm here tonight representing my company, Hummel Investments. Our address is 300 Crescent Court, Suite 1840, Dallas, Texas, 75201. I'm here tonight to present our proposed Firestone Complete Auto Care project. As Emma mentioned, the site is currently under a PD that allows restaurant like the Soul Man. So to build this on the adjacent remaining lot, we need to get an amendment to that PD. I'm sure y'all are probably familiar with Firestone, but they own and operate about 2,200 auto care centers nationwide. They're all company-owned stores. They're not franchisee stores. Their services include minor auto repair, scheduled maintenance. They do sell tires and install tires. Their hours are basically 7 to 7 weekdays and from 9 to 5 on Sundays in some locations. Not all locations are open on Sundays. They have a staff of approximately 8 people per shift. The building is about 6,800 square feet. The customer area is about 1,000 of that square feet, and the rest of it is in the service area and the inventory area. This is not the prototypical Firestone design on the outside, but staff had recommended that we try to pick materials that match the adjacent Soul Man's and then the Medical City ER going farther to the west in the Strip Shopping Center. So this brick color on these color elevations looks a little dark on the screen, but in what we're intending to do is the same red color brick that everybody else has used. We incorporated a little bit of stone and some ephes areas. So we think it'll blend right in with what's built along the road there. Let me see. As far as the layout, we have access, cross access with Soul Man's at the front and the rear. We have access onto the Austin Boulevard, which is on the east side, as well as off of Bowie in the back. So we meet all fire access requirements. As far as our landscaping, the area of landscaping is almost, I think it's a tad more than twice the required amount. We do have the required number of trees, but we can't plant any of those. We can't put anything taller than 6 feet in the Encore overhead easement. So we've put those at other places on the site. Let me see, we had a pre-development meeting back on April the 23rd. I think we've complied with all the comments that came out of that. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bless you. Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, you have any questions or concerns regarding agenda item 6?
How many parking places were you not able to do in order to make it work? I mean,
If we just follow our base ordinance, do you remember what that was, Emma? So they provided 35.
I think it would have been 38.
so just a couple short. Okay.
If I may. And I guess the basis of my request is that 7 of our customers, their cars are parked in the bays when they're there. And we were really having a hard time getting that many parking spaces on the site with the landscaping and in the layout. So that's why we thought that was a reasonable ask.
Any cars left overnight have to be inside, correct?
I won't say it never happens, but generally speaking, if they keep your car overnight, they put it in the building because if something happens to it in the middle of the night parking lot, then it's, their problem. And they do have an early bird drop off service. So I guess, most people probably come at 6 or 7 in the morning and put their keys in the slot. I guess somebody could show up at midnight, but generally speaking, that's just for people, dropping off on their way to work before they open.
Yeah, and it is classified as minor auto care. They're not doing like body panel replacements. So you wouldn't have a car sitting out there that doesn't have its doors or something like, or it doesn't have a hood or something like that.
Right, as
Tell
a
me if I'm
company
wrong.
policy, yeah, they're not rolling dismantled or disabled cars out in the parking lot. And I mean, I've told them that overnight parking is not allowed, so they understand that's a rule. And that's pretty common. I mean, we've developed over 150 of these since 2005 all over the country, and that is not unusual.
Right. Makes sense.
But currently the zoning doesn't say that. So if you want to solidify that of saying you can't park overnight, then you'll have to make a motion with that being included. Is that
So
right, Emma?
with the parking, they're showing 35, but if they were to have meet our requirements, it would be +7. So technically it'd be 42, because there's 7 bays. Yeah,
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7 bays. So that'd be an additional 7. And then with the overnight parking, our zoning ordinance does permit overnight parking for a maximum of 7 days for a car that's being fixed, but it's a maximum of 7 days. So if you did want to put it in the PD that there's no overnight parking, that would have to be language that's specifically put into the language. So but our zoning ordinance does permit it.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners?
I appreciate your working with us to have a nice facade.
Is the state done with all their expansion right there?
Yeah, so the expansion is gonna go to the north side. So that curb line essentially will be held. Maybe not exactly, but the right of way line is being held as it is today.
Anything else, commissioners? If not, can I have a motion for agenda item 6, please?
Move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 6 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 7, which is also to a public hearing and consider a zoning change from Plan Development 29R2 to Plan Development 29R3 to amend the maximum allowed parking for the site identified as Lot 2R, Block B of Red Oak Business Park Number 1, located on the south corner of South Main Street and the railroad tracks, and addressed as 205 South Main Street, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-16, requested by Stephen Zimmerman. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this request has actually come before you all for the need of parking for the site. And the PD was approved to allow this existing parking to serve the uses on the condition that they have 2 years, and we're coming up on 2 years this month. Within 2 years, number one, they get a parking agreement between this site and the old Randy's Barbecue. And within that 2-year period, the church parking wouldn't be calculated towards the parking requirement as long as they only operated on Wednesdays and Sundays. So this year, the applicant actually sent us a parking agreement that was already recorded about 20 years ago. So with that, now the church parking is being accounted for. So they're not able to fill in any more tenants because even with the extra 18 parking spaces, right now they have 142, but even with the extra 18 parking spaces, they don't have enough to take in more tenants. So they would actually be over the amount of parking that they have for the site. So the applicant has requested that the amount of parking permitted be increased to 207 parking spaces, even though they only have the 160 parking spaces. So for example, if someone were to come in the future, these are their vacant spaces, and then this is a pharmacy. It's not in yet, but they have them, correct, but they can't they can't take up the space because there's not enough parking. But any future, the red are all the empty suites. So if someone wants to come in, we would calculate the parking ratio at about 1 parking space per 250 square feet and allow them to get up to that 207. So let's say, for instance, if someone came in here and this was a restaurant use, use would require 1 parking space per 100 square feet. Let's say all of them got filled up, but then instead of a general retail here, now you have a restaurant that requires 1 parking space per 100 square feet, and that it would make the allowed parking go over 207 spaces. Then we would require them to build out this site to the north, because the current zoning shows this as future buildings and parking, but we would require them to build extra parking to meet the parking need for this site. And staff supports the request just because if they can't have any parking for the site, it'll kill the plaza. And this is the parking agreement that was recorded from about 20 years ago with the former property owners to the south.
So the parking that's in Randy's is not part of that parking.
It is.
It is part of that.
Correct.
parking.
And even with that, the ratio is not enough. The applicant did go around and take pictures of the site as it is now to kind of demonstrate lack of, I guess, customers. So they went through and took some pictures. And there's 1 or 2 suites that's never been occupied. There's 1 or 2 suites that never been occupied.
There's 2 shell spaces.
Okay, there's 2 shell spaces that have never been occupied since it was built. So we did have a meeting, staff did meet with the applicants, and there's a prospective buyer that wants to buy the site, but it's the parking that is holding them up. And the prospective buyer, they'll probably, I don't know if they want to talk about it. They did, and this was just part of our discussion, they did have some proposed improvements that they would like to do to the plaza.
All provided by them.
Correct. And I believe we did receive a letter in support. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. This is a public hearing. Those are in favor of this item, you can go first, and please state your name and your address, please.
Stephen Zimmerman, 5307 Oak Lake Drive, Dallas, 75287. I'm the property manager on this project, and as Emma said, it's under contract to sell. But because of the parking requirements and our lack of, we have some vacancies we need to fill. I think the 207 gets us to where we can get everything as a general retail. And as you can see from the pictures that I did 7 days in a row, there's no parking issues at this center. And as many of y'all know, if you drive by it at any point of the day, there's plenty of spaces. So even with filling and the way the center is laid out, in the very back where the church used to be, it's 6,000 square feet. That's not going to require a lot of parking. You're not going to get a Dollar Tree or a Dollar General to go back behind there. You're going to get some form of business that doesn't require parking because there's not really a retail. It's completely hidden. You cannot see it. So just from our research of looking at the parking, and I've been on the property for over 2 years now, our pushback on not wanting to build the parking today is it will give an even more vacant image to the shopping center. To have another 70 spots built looks like we'll never fill it up. And it's hard to change an image of a center when the parking lot already looks vacant. And the new buyers, Stewart's one of the new buyers. I know Stewart and his partner very well, and this is what they do. They go in and they rebrand these centers. They're not flip centers. They rebrand these centers and they have ideas. And if you scroll through, you'll see some of the centers that they've taken and they make them from nothing to something. That's what they want to do with this, but we've pushed the closing back for these meetings here because no one's going to buy a center that they can't sign a tenant at. The pharmacy went to get a CO and we realized at that point that we were over our parking ratio. Even though there's not a real parking issue there. So in my opinion, and when I went to the development meeting and everything and talked to Todd and Ben and everyone, it's a problem. I manage a lot of centers all over Texas, all over the place. It's a problem that if it becomes a problem, it's a self-correcting problem. No landlord in their right mind would allow a center to have a parking issue when we have vacant land. They'll build out the land so their tenants are happy. Otherwise we lose tenants. So the 207 number came from Todd to give us enough leeway to start signing these tenants. And we're not looking to turn this into a restaurant row. It's not laid out. It's not laid out to where that can really be done. We want it to be a nice center for people to visit. They go to have dinner. They can go get ice cream next door. Those kinds of centers. And these guys have the capabilities and the know-how to take the center from, I'm sure y'all seen what Main Street is. I've been to the city council meetings. Y'all know before my buyers took it over, it was a problem center. And we took it over. These guys took it. Now they are not, the current owners wouldn't do what Precision Investments will do. They just hold it and they want to get their investment out of it and move on. This company will come in and you kind of went by like even Gravy in the back, they're looking to raise the facade, obviously with city approval, to get some vision from the street, bring people in. Everything with city approval, obviously, like Main Street Plaza arch, very simple, that you come in and when you take a center like this that's been seen like this for this long, and you come in and you do that kind of work to it, people are going to come into it just to see what else is being done. We've got other ideas to get with the Philip who bought the old Randy's Barbecue, hopefully maybe turning that grass space into like a little outdoor seating park as a focal point and share it with Philip, obviously with y'all's approval, and that's down the road. But our biggest thing now is we can't sell this with the parking that we have. We can't ask the owners right now to spend $350,000 developing it. We can ask these investors to come in and spend $350,000 developing it. So I think the meat in the middle would be that 207 has been calculated perfectly to where we can still fill this up and we won't have a parking problem. If we go over it, we develop the land. So if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. As of right now, we don't have anything, but
Sorry?
we could. I said we could have some questions, but as of right
Well,
now.
I'll be
we
right
don't.
there.
Okay. All right. I see you. All right. Don't go nowhere. Anyone else? And we did receive a email from Randy Grubbs. He stated, please consider me in favor of the zoning change requested by Stephen Zimmerman for 205 South Main Street. Very much in favor of making life as easy as possible for people to conduct their business in the best and easiest way that they can. And can I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions?
I'm confused on the number of parking spaces, so there's 142 there now. If you add the 18th adjacent side, there's 160. But you're asking that it be increased to 207, where the other ones come from? I don't understand.
It's just, we're gonna, just in an effort to help them, we're basically allowing those extra parking spaces to be calculated at one parking space per 250 square feet. So that's the ask, that's kind of the exception for this PD. That's the purpose of bringing it forward. So they don't technically exist, but we're in order to help them add more tenants, we're allowing them more parking spaces, but at a ratio of about one parking space per 250 square feet to get them to 207.
But there's not 207 spots.
No,
Correct.
we're pretending they exist by
Correct.
increasing the ratio. that's required.
They're imaginary.
Seems.
So-
They're imaginary in the sense that they would only be real if we applied a made-up parking standard to them in our zoning ordinance.
So we're gonna change the parking standard
For just their
to
development.
modify for them until it reaches
Correct.
the capacity.
Correct. And then if
What's the capacity?
207,
But not really.
correct.
So, yeah.
So why not
it's-
instead change the ratio that we're requiring so that we meet the 160 spaces that are physically there?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you could do that, but let's say, for example, someone that doesn't, someone that's already occupied in there, we keep them at the same ratio. So if it's a restaurant, let's say Gravy's, if another restaurant comes in there, we keep them at one parking space per 100 square feet.
But another restaurant is coming there.
At Gravy's?
Yeah, Zook's is opening up in front of Gravy's,
But they have their.
but their
parking
numbers are
spaces too.
calculated into the parking ratio, which
Zook's
I don't
old Randy
understand at
barbecue?
all.
Zeus is gravy.
I know,
Yeah, and that's another lot.
Yeah, they have.
but I
parking right
just
front.
asked if that was incorporated into the numbers.
So they do have 18 extra parking spaces. So in addition to their required parking spaces, they have 18 extra, which is that shared easement that was recorded 20 years ago. That's where those 18 spaces
That's a
come from.
$10 consideration. Okay.
Correct.
So Phil and Michelle are gonna share those 18 spaces
And yes.
with the rest of the center. Okay, that was totally throwing me off.
Yeah. So as you can see here, these spaces here, these spaces here, this shared common access easement that was recorded 20 years ago allows both sites to have access through here.
Okay.
Because if they didn't, then technically this use right here, the patrons here wouldn't be able to park here.
Correct,
So it really benefited both sites.
right.
And in the beginning, we thought we owned all that parking for years because it's built on Main Street Plaza's.
Property.
I see why they did it. When they replatted it, they had to get that parking, they did the parking agreement. But we've been using that parking forever. And it wasn't until we sent through a survey and when I looked at it, we realized we don't own that parking.
Well, I know, I park there about 3 times a week at Gravy, so.
Do you?
Yes,
Great, good.
it is.
I'm excited to see what he does with that old Randy barbecue.
So, Mike, okay, so I'm with you, Karen. I'm a little confused about it. Why we couldn't just change the ratio and then when they have someone who comes into one of those empty shells with a 10-year lease or a 5-year lease or whatever, then it would prompt having to build that additional parking. I get why you don't want to do it now because it's a cash outlay that is just for a parking lot. I mean, Gravy's closes at 3, the bar and grill sadly doesn't have a lot of people there. Phillips, Zook's is gonna be open at night. The church is only on Sunday and Wednesdays, so there's a lot of like staggered parking times. What kind of pharmacy is that gonna be?
Compounding.
Okay.
They never have.
Yeah, so that'll be like a 9 to 5,
8 to 4.
8 to 4, 9 to 6, whatever kind of thing. Especially if it's compounding.
Yeah, I can totally see your point of waiting till the market drives them to build more parking spots
Yeah.
when they actually have people complain they can't park. I do not think it's good to say we have 207 parking spots if we don't.
Well,
that's
it's,
just confusing.
it's honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically the same difference. Whether you change the parking ratio or you say we have 207, you're just taking it from one place or put it to the other. But to keep everything kind of in line, keep the parking ratios we have. And then just pretend we have 207. That's really what this is, right? I mean, it makes no difference to us whether as owners or managers, however you do it. We just want to turn this center around, and right now I don't want this sale to go sour, and it will, because no one's gonna pull that kind of money out of their pocket to build a parking lot that is already, looks like it's in a, like I equated to if we built that parking, it'd be like putting a 7-Eleven in a Costco parking lot. No matter how busy 7-Eleven is, it's gonna look dead. And to have that other parking is an eyesore, and I don't think we're gonna need it. Because most businesses, it's not a regular strip center where it's straight across, like the one in front where it has the like that, right in front of the gas station has, like, those are straight up front. Most of those businesses are busy at the same times throughout the day. This is a different center. It was laid out. I never would have done it this way, but the way it's laid out, you're not gonna have that draw of traffic. Like, I forget which one of you said it. We have staggered parking. Gravy's open till 1 o'clock, and then Zook's will be open at night. 342 doesn't have any customers anyway, so they don't really do any parking problems. But
That's
the
awful.
pharmacy, the donut place
Yeah.
closes at 12. This center will always have a staggered parking. So, I mean, if you look at those pictures I took, I mean, those are all different key times. And it looks dead.
I agree with Karen and Susie, though. That's a convoluted way of saying it. When you come in with a new tenant later on down the road, what do you say? We got some pretend parking spots over here. Wouldn't it be easier just to change?
The
ratio?
tenant won't know anything, so
Right.
they're gonna say, hey, I wanna move to this building, and we'll go, okay, here's your CO, and we're gonna check the parking spots, not even talk to them about it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're designated.
Yeah.
Now, is it super convoluted? Yes. Is zoning typically convoluted? Yes. Are the parking ratios all made up from this IT trip generation manual? Yes, so we basically were taking what is a convoluted zoning ordinance and putting a little more convolution on it to make
Super
to
convoluted.
make it where they can just park. So we just, I've said it all the time, is if you don't have a parking problem, you got a bigger problem. Right now, they got a bigger problem because there's so much parking that's not being utilized. And I guess my opinion is, let's just get out of the way and let them try to make it successful. Are they gonna be successful? I hope so.
I have no problem getting out of the way, letting them do it. I just want
Yeah.
us to make it clear. I feel like
Well,
we're
yeah,
gonna
so
be, a
it's,
few years, someone's gonna come back and look at this and go, wait, they said 207. There's not 207. Where'd they get that? So I just feel like we should.
so the
make
way
it-
the ordinance will be written, our planners and our people that are writing up the COs and doing the actual parking calculations, it's a pretty standard way of looking at it. So as staff, we look at it, we know what it is, we do the calculations, we know what's what for the COs.
Okay.
So is something gonna trigger the building of the parking lot?
So that was,
So if they rented out a suite that whatever that big one was, and it happened to be a restaurant, and that put them over that 207, then that would trigger them they wouldn't be able to rent that space without building that.
We would
Because-
have a choice not to sign the tenant, which is not a good business move.
Right.
Or to build the parking, which is, I don't know any landlords that wouldn't. And we may need to build 15 spots. We don't know, but yeah, so what Ben said, the 6,000 square foot in the back became a restaurant and it took up 60 spots for 100. We wouldn't be able to do that. We can either build more parking but the 207, it keeps us from doing that. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do what's best for the plaza, what's best for the parking, and at the point where we see that that we're hitting our numbers and we want to keep going, then we add more parking.
I would love to see them have a parking problem.
That's what I
I,
said.
I would love to see them have, well, they kind of do have a parking problem on some days when Gravy's open and nothing else is open in Red Oak and you go to Gravy and, you know, like Labor Day, which,
But the church is only allowed Wednesdays and Sundays, and I submitted that with the city. They signed a contract with me saying that's the only time that they'll operate between certain times. So they can't switch it. And they're taking up quite a bit of parking. What's it, 1 per 3 seats or something? So, I mean, that's another thing. The church is open when everyone else is closed. And if the church leaves, we can't backfill with the church anyway, because I rezoned the property a couple years back. We are allowing them to stay, but we can't sign any more churches. The new zoning that we did kept us from exploding our parking. So with that on our side and giving us 207 and we have development land, I think it works.
So
But I see what you're saying about it's a placebo number. Why not just redo the parking ratios? Originally, I thought that's what we were doing, but then it's really the same difference. So however y'all want to do it, as long as we hit that 207, either equivalent with ratios changing or the fake number up top, either one, that helps us. So either one.
so.
Sorry, not to make it more confusing, but if we kind of change all the parking ratios, it'll really change the types of uses that can go in there. So we want to keep what's already there at the existing parking ratios. And literally it's about 44 more parking spaces. That's really all that they're getting. So the remaining 5 suites, whatever comes in, that's all that they're getting is the 44 spaces. So let's say tomorrow, there's an office use, the Sylvan Learning Center, we're counting that as an office use. If that goes in and that's now 1 parking space for 100 square feet, now they're already eating into that extra parking spaces that we approved.
So we're exempting them 44 spots up to 205.
Correct.
And then if they build up, I just think it could be worded so much better.
well, so
It is so complicated.
now that my question is this, say, is there potential for them to, at the 205, 207 to book it all out, right? It's possible if they have the right uses,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden 342 reimages himself, and now we're busy all the time. And because no one needs a CO, we can't force them to have parking. Is that,
No, that's-
and we have citizens upset, is that a potential problem that could happen?
Well, everybody has to have CO and everybody has to go through that process when we're calculating out.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they get
So
full,
342's already got their parking based on the original, their CO based on the other.
What is
ratios
342?
that
The
they're
bar
talking
and grill.
about.
Oh, the
I'm saying,
restaurant.
is it
Oh,
potential
okay.
that they could
Yeah,
get
it's a
full,
restaurant.
that they get full under this, what we're about to do? And I'm not against it. I get what we're trying to do. We're trying to be productive, and I get what and then we have citizens screaming, I want to go to this business, there's no parking, I want to go to this business. And then up there, we got people popping up signs, and we got parking wars, and this is my spots.
Hypothetically, it's possible, yes.
Okay, is it
is
possible-
that we
I-
sign,
and I- yeah.
342 leaves and we sign the coolest restaurant in the world and the 200 people are going there for dinner? That's possible no matter what your parking ratio is. A parking problem, there's centers that have parking problems that are under their parking ratio, all over every city. This center, the way it's laid out, even with 342 was booming, when they're booming, everyone else is pretty much shutting
No,
down.
yeah,
and closed.
yeah.
So picture this, picture 342 is allowed, say 50 spots. And they bring 100. Well, the pharmacy's closed, the hair place is closed, the nail place is closed. All that parking that's allotted to them, it's like they're sharing it back with 342. But that's how all centers are. But is there a
Yeah.
potential problem? Of course.
Yeah.
There's a potential problem that the donut place becomes so popular. People, I mean, it's any business. It just depends on, but I see what you're saying. 342 is, they're not doing well.
And that was just, I mean, it
Yeah,
didn't matter
no,
what
I agree
business
with
it
you.
is.
I don't disagree.
Randy's could, or Zook's could do it, you know?
Zooks could do great. They could decide to be
My,
open
yeah,
for dinner.
my only, that's,
So
yeah.
there's, but it's also, risk and reward.
Yeah.
It's either take it or the center just gets
I agree.
put back on auction or something, or,
Yeah.
or give it to us and trust us as owners and managers to, I've always said parking, when you have land, when you have stuff like that, parking it will fix itself.
Yeah.
If you have good owners. These
Yeah.
guys are,
Well, and that's, I mean, essentially that's what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
the situation I'm bringing up is it's a trust relationship.
it's.
Am I gonna have people knocking on my door saying, hey, can't you do something about this? Because you're on P and Z and all these parking problems. We want to go up there. We want to go to Zoots. We want to go here, but there's nowhere to park. And, you know, hopefully.
At that point, it becomes their responsibility to satisfy their their clients'
agree.
customers.
If they're knocking on your door, our tenants are knocking on ours.
Okay.
And I manage several centers, like I said, all over. And we've developed parking before when the city didn't require us to because it made sense.
Yeah. I got you.
So it's just one of those things. Yeah, could it come back
It's
to bite you? It
economics,
could.
basically.
But anything could, you know, in business. There's never 100%. If y'all kept us at 160, we get bit, you know, and y'all get bit. There's no revenue to Red Oak.
No, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I am
do something.
too. It's gonna be good. This is Stuart. He's one of the.
No, you're good.
Yes, still give us your name, and your
All right,
address,
yes.
please.
Stuart Cordy, Precision Investments. I'm with the group that's under contract to purchase the property. My address, office address, 740 East Campbell Road, Suite 110, Richardson, Texas, 75081. And so, very good question you brought up. I just want to share with you that at our properties, we all we do is retail, and that's shopping centers. And so we understand, the dynamics of parking and how that all plays out into everything. And so we had a property out in Weatherford, still on it, but 25,000 square feet out there. When we acquired it, it was 30% leased, also built back in 2005. It was something like 40% of it had never been leased in the 20 years that it had been there. And anyway, we came out, got it to 100% leased, didn't have any issues with parking code, but we had 0.6 acres of land that was undeveloped next to it. And instead of trying to go profit and sell that off to some, pad user, HTO, Starbucks, something like that, we decided to go spend, $120,000 to build more parking there. And full purpose of that was solely just to, benefit the tenants. Because ultimately, if the parking's not good, tenants, their businesses are going to suffer. They're going to leave. We look at it like we're in business together, and it's a partnership. We need them to be successful for us to be successful. And so if that tenant leaves, the next tenant, they're not going to want to come in and lease that space when they say, well, where are my customers going to park? So we fully understand that. We did the same thing up in Princeton. We took it from 29 parking spaces there up to 55 parking spaces as a part of that remodel. Our property in Richardson, we worked out, there's a parking garage, similar to the project that was being discussed earlier, the mixed use development there. And so the multifamily has a multi-level parking garage, worked out an agreement with the multifamily owner to allow the employees from our tenants to park in there to keep the parking clear. And so that was ended up becoming a recorded document. So that's something where it doesn't do us any good to just say, oh, sorry, guys, deal with it. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions or concerns?
I'm fine with letting them just use the parking that's there. Cause yes, it's not full. And if it's a problem, yes, you'll build something else for your own benefit. I think if y'all think the best way is to pretend there's another 47 spots, then okay, I'll take your expertise into.
Yeah, I guess when you look at the layout, it's an older layout. I mean, Steve is talking about if he's been doing this for a long time, if you look at the layout, it's an older layout. So you have to work what you have pretty much. Ben is trying to work with them, and I've been by there many times. I've been out here since Red Oak since 2006. To me, it's always been have that vacant look of a retail center. Retail centers, you don't want that at all. So.
And yeah, just to be clear, this site has never planned or laid out to have enough parking since it was approved. So this is just an effort to help them with it. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, if no more questions, can I have a motion for agenda item 7, please?
Move that we accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Wait, one no. One no. So we got 1, 2, 4, 5. 5 ayes, 1 no. Ayes have it. Agenda item 7 has been approved. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, tonight.